you got to have a good grip on your weapon, okay? It's very important that you keep your fingers tied around the weapon at all times. That's a very important part of this whole thing, okay? You want to make sure that it's there, okay? So even when I do, for instance, Floretti's, which is a more advanced weapon, my fingers aren't letting go here so that it can spin easier. I want to develop that. So one of the good exercises to do. Hey guys, thank you for checking out our video. My name's Sean Elders. Today we're gonna be doing some basics of solo single stick training. Let's get started. Solo stick training. It could also be solo sword training, okay? Let's talk a little bit about this and how can I get better? The first thing I always say is, how do I get better? First, your teacher shows you how to, or I show you, or somebody shows you how to do certain patterns. There's numbering systems that you can use, but there's also different types of ways that you will the weapon, okay? When we do the single stick, we always want to make sure that we have the stick in our hand a certain way. We want to pay attention to how we will the stick. So the knuckles here face out, okay? We want to pretend that this is a blade. That's what the stick represents, the actual edged weapon, okay? So the other type would be something like this, like a polymer sword, okay? And you're paying attention to, where is my knuckles, okay? Where are my lines? I want to make sure that my lines look good. That's a very important part of this whole thing. Because we have to make sure that when we will a weapon, we will it correctly, because we want to get the best out of our weapon when we're using it. When we are doing our stick work, I want to make sure that my knuckles are facing the right direction. I want to make sure that when I'm doing it, my stick is at 90 degrees off here. You don't want it to extend too much out here like this, and you don't want it too much towards you either. You want to make sure it's at a 90 degrees, and it's a good thing. The other thing that really is a pet peeve for me, and I can tell if this person's has really good stick skills or sword skills, is if they keep a good grip on the weapon at all times. So what happens a lot of times is that you see people doing, you have Floretti's and different things like that. You have redondos, but a lot of them, they'll do this. They'll open up their fingers and spin it around because they don't have the flexibility in the wrists to be able to do it, okay, to do it correctly. You want to have a good grip on your weapon at all times. This is a key element to being able to be effective, okay, with the weapon itself. The flexibility of your wrists are a key element to this, and how to be able to develop or be able to do it correctly. Because what happens if somebody spins the stick and their fingers are open like this, as soon as it gets hit, it's gonna go out. You can't keep a good grip on anything with just one or two fingers, or two or three fingers. You just can't do it. So you'll see a lot of times people spinning it and their fingers are out like this. It's crazy, okay? You can't do that. You gotta have a good grip on your weapon, okay? It's very important that you keep your fingers tied around the weapon at all times. That's a very important part of this whole thing, okay? You want to make sure that it's there, okay? So even when I do, for instance, Floretti's, which is a more advanced weapon, my fingers aren't letting go here so that it can spin easier. I want to develop that. One of the basic exercises you can start off with is take your two sticks, put them in the center of your arms, and you just spin them like this, okay? And that helps every day before you do your Filipino martial arts practice, or any kind of weapons training, is you want to spin your sticks just like this, okay? And this helps get the wrist going. It helps develop flexibility in your wrists and all that stuff like that. Then the other one is that you can take the stick. And you can do what we call, you can start to bend it here and get some bend and some flexibility working to your advantage. So you want to, just like before you train or do any kind of exercise, you want to warm up the joints, okay? And you want to get a little bit of a stretch. So you're kind of turn the weapon, okay, and just get a little bit of stretch out of that, just like that. And that's another way of doing it, okay? Another one is you do spins like this with both hands, okay? So you're going like this, okay? And you're just spinning them just like this, so that you're just gonna warm up the wrists, okay? Then the second one is you're gonna take the stick and you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Another one is where this is more advanced, is you're gonna go here like this, like that, and go opposite direction, just like this. This helps develop also the right and left hemisphere of the brain, okay? This is a really good exercise to develop your motor skills, really. Coordination, and learning how to independently move each hand, okay? And so there's a lot of different ones like that, but those are the key elements to developing that flexibility in your wrists, okay? Being able to do that. So why do we need to make sure that the flexibility in your wrists are good, besides the fact that, you know, you got the Floretti, you got certain ones that, you know, when you're turning and moving the weapon, okay, that you're able to see this, okay, see that there's your Floretti, is because you have diagonal down, okay, you have diagonal up. Notice how I'm using my body to do it, okay, but I'm also cutting. So if I have my edged weapon, I'm going like this, see? So I'm going like this, see? And so notice how my body's moving. All right, so when you're in front of the mirror, it's very important to practice in front of the mirror, because mirror training helps develop and make sure you're doing everything right, because you're self-reflecting. You're reflecting and looking at your reflection and how your body is moving. So when I do that, number one, I want to lead with the weapon, and I want my shoulder to move with the weapon. A lot of times I'll see this. Their shoulders aren't moving at all, and they're squared up like this. You want to use your body. You can use your feet. Now in Panantukan tertia, for instance, so you have different styles of Filipino martial arts, and you should learn all the different styles. In my opinion, you should learn some of the uniqueness of different Filipino martial arts. For instance, like in Asano's Lacoste blend, they pivot their feet. It's like this. But depending on the train in Panantukan tertia, they don't pivot their feet. You keep your feet in place because of the terrain. If you're on slippery rocks, you can't pivot your feet. Okay, if you're on a slippery surface, okay, depending on the type of surface you're on, you may lift your feet, but you may not pivot. So it all depends on your body mechanics. But the body mechanics, notice how when I go here, and then when I turn this out, right when I bring this hand out, I am pivoting and cutting. See that? My shoulder is going in play. And you see a lot of times what happens is notice I'm not moving the shoulder yet until I get this out here, and then boom, I cut through. So this is some really great basics understanding. So that's your downward figure eight, upward figure eight. It's like this. Notice I bring this up, and when I cut, I get to right about here, and then I pivot my body. See? I pivot my body, and I pivot my body, okay? Because it's that last bit right here where you want to use that extra little bit of power and torque to get your movement through, the blade through. So that's downward figure eight, upward figure eight. So you have to practice your downward figure eights in the mirror. Just like that, nice straight line. You want to try to get the lines as straight as you can. Upwards. So notice I'm delaying on my turn when I bring the blade up. Why? Because I want to make sure that I am not, if I turn early, it shortens the weapon. Okay, if you see it from this angle, it'll shorten the weapon. If I turn early, it'll shorten the weapon. If I turn late, then I have my weapon extended, and then I'm able to pull through. See this? I'm able to pull through. But if I don't, then my weapon's shorter. Okay, and that's a very important part of this whole thing. Then you have redondos, for instance. Okay, and I do the redondo. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna move back to the stick because you can see my stick a little bit better. You can see the color of it, and you'll be able to see it. The other one's it's kind of dark, so you may have trouble. So we have redondo on this side, and notice when I bring my weapon up, I bring it all the way up above my head, just like this, at an angle, and I cut downwards like this. I cut downwards, and notice how my hand is here, just like that. I'm cutting downwards. And then I can do it on this side. So on the right side, this is the thing a lot of people get missed. They do this, they just, and they get silly. They go like this, and they never move their body, and there's no real power behind this. And remember, redondos, it's a cutting through, it's a power shot. So it should be just like that. Boom. See, it cuts through. Then on the right side, when I do it on this side, I want to extend my arm out and cut through. And then when I get to right about here, this is when I pivot. And I pivot out, just like that. So you can hear that, just like that. And so I'm going all the way out and I'm pivoting. Notice, look at my shoulder. Look where it's at. Look at where I'm at here. I'm not using my shoulders. I'm not doing something crazy with my shoulders where I'm going to impinge my shoulders a certain way. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm pivoting my body so that my arm just goes straight out like this. Okay, but I'm doing it straight back. So how do I do that? I do that by turning my, so you got to work on your flexibility of your trunk. Okay, so we extend the weapon out and I come straight out like this. Boom, 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 just like that. And this extension, this is so important to get this right. I see so many practitioners not doing their redondos appropriately because the redondos are power shots, okay? So you have vertical on both sides and then you have diagonal on both sides. So you have this, just like this, here. See, it powers through. Then you have diagonal on this side. And it's the same concept. You're gonna extend this out and then pull. When I pull out, look at how I am. My shoulders here. Pay attention to where my feet are too. If my feet are square or surfed, I'm on a surfboard, I'm not gonna have an effective balance. I'm not gonna be able to do it effectively. I have to have that foot out. It's part of the pyramid, right? Part of that pyramid stance, okay? So I'm pulling through just like that. And this is what gives an effective strike or slice, depending on if you're doing an edge weapon or an impact weapon. So those are the basics. You have above the head, like a lasso. I call this the lasso one. This is a horizontal redondo, just like that. And then you have it the other way too. And so when you pull through, you're pulling like that, just like that. See? And so you have these different motions, okay? Then you have abanico. Abanico goes back to a highly flexible wrist, okay? Because why? Because you want that wrist to go past your target. Most practitioners I see, they can just go to the target. That's it. And they can only go that far. You need to be able to go 12 inches past at least. Mine's more like 18 to 20 inches past the target because I've worked on my flexibility, okay, on my wrists. So I'm going past, just like that, past. And so your first abanico is going to be horizontal above the head. The next one's going to be diagonal, okay? Diagonal right to left, then left to right, just like this, okay? All right, and then you could do one vertical, just like that, and vertical on the other side, just like that, okay? And then you have in front. So those are all the basics of your single stick patterns, and also teaching you some of the basics of how to get flexibility in your wrist, how to hold the weapon appropriately. And this is just the basics. You've got to check out, I'm developing courses on this, and just look out for that as well in more detail and giving you all the stuff that you need to be able to be more efficient. But I hope this is a really great beginning start of your single stick or single sword movements. Hope this helped. See you next time. Panantukan Level 1. This program is one of the most streamlined. It's over 8.5 hours long. It gives you everything step by step, everything that you need. Fundamentals breakdown of all the exercises you need. Understanding of empty hand, how to use fight without gloves, with gloves. It's going to teach you all the aspects that you need about the foundation and fundamentals of Panantukan. Okay? Unlike what we see a lot of times now in the combatives in the Filipino martial arts world, a lot of techniques, a lot of drills, but how do you make those drills go from the drill to actual real combatives? And that's what this program, this is the first level to that, and getting you set up, learning all the aspects of how do I engage, what's the techniques, what do I need to practice to get myself where I'm able to be adaptable in combat. Okay, that's the most important thing. That's what everybody's looking for. How do I get better? How am I able to adapt when somebody attacks me? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do it? What I'm going to do is I'm giving you a different perspective on Panantukan, unlike what you see in this modern day where you see a lot of drills and exercises that just don't translate to real combat. I call the meat and potatoes of combat. Not the fluff, not all the extra stuff, but only simply the things that you really need that are gonna help you be effective in combat. But the most important thing in combat is to survive. The most important thing is to be able to adapt, okay? And so that's what this program is all about. This is gonna help you go to that next level. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you've been doing this for 10 years. I'm gonna help fill in those gaps, fill in those holes that you've never learned before. Go to our website, pinnaclecombatarts.com. There you can find out more about what I do and the classes that I provide. Thank you guys so much for your support and have a great day.